All right, next up is a Technics, what is this, SA-8000 Quad. Now I'm not going to power this on right now because the customer reported that they were listening to it, it started smoking and blew a fuse, I believe. There's a fuse missing from the back. So no sense in powering this up at this point in time. What I want to do is take a look at the inside, see if I can pinpoint the damage, and then look at potentially replacing any components that are burned out, identifying what the problem might be. I have a suspicion, if I remember correctly, a lot of these Technics receivers had little Panasonic or Sanyo capacitors that are known to kind of go bye-bye, right? And then it takes a lot of stuff with it when that happens. So anyway, we're going to open this up and see what we can see. One thing you have to understand about working on a quad is that you have double the components, double the circuitry. These can be kind of a chore to troubleshoot. So first thing, I don't know what's going on with this fuse holder here, but this fuse isn't really even stuck in here. It says the 3 amp fuse. This fuse holder appears to be kind of deformed, misshapen. So, interesting. And then we have one fuse missing. This is set to 2-channel. There's some writing in here etched on the heatsink. Looks like maybe, I don't know what those numbers represent, but I think the amplifier boards are here. Amplifier boards are here. So I'm just going to kind of give this a visual inspection and see what I can see. I'm sure you don't want to see the back of my head while I do this, so I'll click out and click back in if I find anything. Nothing jumps out, but you know, it could be something buried on the amplifier boards down low. There's a board underneath that they connect to. There is evidence of a previous repair though. So let me see if I can get in here and show that to you. See this? See that resistor? I think it's a resistor sitting up here. That was soldered into position. See if you can see. I know this is rough. But basically they snipped the old resistor out and they just soldered this one in to replace it. So, I mean, I'm sure this board is a pain to remove, which is why they did that. You probably can't get to the board from underneath. If you can, this was just someone being lazy, right? If you can't, I can maybe understand why you would do it that way. But so anyway, I don't see any burn marks, any burned resistors, at least anywhere that's easy to get to. So I am reluctantly going to power this on. I'm going to replace the fuse that's missing, or install a fuse that's missing, and we'll see what happens. Dim bulb's in position. Fuse has been replaced. Those fuses at least appear to be good. I didn't test them, but there's that one burn mark on the board there. So I'm going to fire it up and see what happens. Let's Okay, so that was interesting. So I heard a click, but it was pretty quick after I turned it on. So let's check that again. So power. I don't think that's... Oh. So the protection relay is clicking in right away. I'm going to measure the speaker terminals for any DC. Yeah, there should be some kind of delay there. 250 millivolts, 300 millivolts, 320, 330, climbing on the right channel and nothing on the left channel. So we've got a right channel issue. See the voltage just climbing up there? Now it's coming back down. So voltage kind of spiked up, came back down. Here we have nothing. So 325 millivolts and dropping. All right. So I'm just going to watch this for a second, see what happens. That's down to 0.29. Let's just let this sit for a bit. Come back here in a minute and see what it's doing. All right, well, I was going to let this sit for a couple minutes, but then I looked a little more closely, and can you see what I see? Let's see. This is still on, so I'm going to be careful, but do you see that heart shape in that output transistor right there? So I wonder if that was the source of the smoke, of the smell. Because that has definitely seen better days. I'm going to power this off. I'm going to check voltage one more time there. 19. All right, those speakers are turned off. So that's not good. Power this off. Let's see what kind of transistors those are. If I got one, I'll just pop one in and see what happens. Before I go too much further, so I want to explain what we're looking at, and I had to look at the service manual to figure out what transistors were going to what channels. So we have, these are left front, left rear, right front, right rear. So this is one of the right front transistors. So I'm just curious to see if our high DC offset is present on both the front and the rears. Right? So what I need to do is I'm going to turn the fronts down. Well, I think, sorry, I'm just kind of getting my bearings here. I don't know if there's a button I need to press to turn on or off the speakers. It looks like I don't need to. It looks like the right rear and the left rear speakers are on, because I didn't see any DC on the rear. Oh, but I need to, I'm going to switch it to 4-channel. Let's see what happens. So if I go to 4-channel, I look at the rear speakers. I'm getting 0 and 0. in right channel front I'm getting 300 millivolts, and I'm getting 3 millivolts, no millivolts, no millivolts. I'm getting a little bit. So what I'm trying to determine, is this an output issue with that transistor, or is it something in the preamp? I guess we really won't know until we replace that transistor. So back to the service manual, I'm going to see if I can find a replacement for that. Before I go on to the next step, I want to point out something that's kind of interesting. If you look at the outputs, the screws are all the same except for these two. And per the schematic, this should have two SC-789s in these positions, but these have two SD-526s. So either these were all replaced, or some of them, well, either they were all replaced, or there was a change at the factory and they put in two SD-526s. Either way, the replacement for these is an MJE15030 is what I saw in Audio Karma. I don't have any of those, but what I am going to do, just to see what happens, is I'm going to swap this transistor, this good, or seemingly good, 2SD526, for this bad 2SD526. I'm going to set this back to 2-channel mode, because these are rear speaker outputs. So essentially these will be shut off. So I'll swap these two around, turn it on, see if the transistor I put here blows up, or see if there is any DC on the outputs. So what I'm trying to figure out is, like, is it just this transistor decided to give up, or is there something that drove this to where it's, you know, it started smoking? So anyway, to do this, I'm going to have to flip this over. It's a mess underneath. So I'm going to forward through all that stuff because I anticipate it taking a little while. Interesting design there. I'm going to test this transistor and just see what's going on with it. The one with the heart-shaped hole in it. Short circuit on green and blue. Yeah, there's no surprise there. So what happens if we leave that transistor out and we put this transistor in its place? Kind of curious to see what will happen. Yeah, someone's definitely been in here and did some work and made a big mess. I mean, even more of a mess than I typically make. So I'm going to pop this into the position of where this bad one was. I'm going to double check though, make sure I put this in the right spot. Not made for easy repair at all. I think the proper way to do that is probably to disassemble the whole thing, but nope, I'm not doing that. So let me resolder these into position. Put that board back in. Half of these transistors, the nuts are loose on them. Man, I need to get more lights. Like, I can't see anything down here. Alright, I'm going to speed through this. I have to wrestle with this a little bit. All right, so we don't have a transistor in that position right now. I have no idea what's going to happen. So that's where the bad transistor was, right? Because it's front, rear, front, rear. Swapped it out with the same transistor that was in there before. I had to kind of get this stuff all over. See how this is loose? Oh, I guess it's just loose over here. Ouch. Dang, that hurt. So I'm going to fire this up and see what happens. See if anything bad happens. Ooh. There's a short. There's a short. There's a short. So, by popping that, by replacing the transistor that was blown apart in that position with a good transistor, the dim bulb tester shows a short. So that tells us there is something shorted somewhere else in that circuit. So I'm going to remove that transistor and test it. And let's see, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a fifth transistor. I have to remove that board again. Oh, again, not the easiest to work on. So let's see if we fried this transistor. Yep, nope. So that transistor's good. So there's something somewhere else that is the problem. So this transistor is going to go back into its original position. And to make sure I get this to where it was kind of the original as delivered operating condition, I want to make sure that, oh my gosh. I mean, this is a freaking joke. It's like playing Operation, like the Operation game. And you've got lithium grease that's all greasy all over. Or not lithium grease, but thermal compound. And yeah, anyway, let me put this back together. I realize that's absolutely horrible. The video from the position of this thing, but I mean, this is I can't wait till it's winter. It is really, really warm. I cannot wait till it's winter. Alright. So I moved that transistor back to its original position. And I'm just kind of curious to see what happens here. I power this on. Right. And the relay clicks. But the relay clicks right away. So now I'm getting 0. Oh, you know what I didn't? I forgot to frickin' change it back to 2-channel. And I also didn't solder the damn thing in. Gosh. I am, well, yeah, that wouldn't matter. But I did not solder this back in. I don't know that this receiver's going to make it. Because, we may not be on speaking terms here in the very short term. Sometimes I have to take a break from these difficult projects. And you know, the issue with the quad is it's got twice as much of everything. So you have two of everything you've got to worry about. Alright, so that's soldered back in there. Fuses are intact. Turn it on. No bulb. But I'm curious to know if this is making any sound. I suspect it is not. Especially on the right channel. Let me do the left channel. Let's see if I get some kind of audio. Oh my lord, these speakers. The terminals are even jacked on this thing. Alright. Let's see. There's signal. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. No audio. No audio on the rear speakers. Do I get audio on the left front? Let's see. I'm about ready to call it a day. Nope. Yep, so that's more or less what I expected. All right. Well, we know that there's something in that right channel that's not correct. Yeah, there's been work here. So these transistors are not originals. Their resistor is different. This is going to be a kind of a longer term project, so we're going to shoot this in parts because I'm going to have to get new outputs, test all these voltages, and yeah. Alright, so end of part one. We have this Toshiba boat anchor here. Oh, and it's super heavy too, which makes it even all the better. So anyway, we'll be plugging away on this in different parts. This will go to the bench, or actually my shelf. It'll go to the shelf. Until I am in the mood to mess with it again. Probably will be a couple of weeks before I come back to this one. And this is not an active customer. This is one of the shops. The customer bought it. Listened to it for a while. No issues. And then all of a sudden it freaked out. So customer brought it back. Picked up a different unit. So this is a shop unit. So I've got time to work on this. I have some other projects that are quick projects I can knock out before I get into the weeds on this one. So anyway, we'll see you in part 2.